Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Nona from thealignlover.com. Here is another video in my series looking at fall and winter coats for the body types. Today we are looking at soft gamines. Our first example is a sleek and structured longer coat. Now in all of these examples we see a collar that is narrow and slightly padded shoulders for definition and angularity. The upper portion of the body is very important when it comes to setting up the entire silhouette, especially for the gamines because they need that sense of accuracy. So to enhance this, choosing a narrow or even a standing collar helps to reinforce structure and shoulder width in a way that maintains their more petite proportion. And by that I mean it isn't creating an exaggeratedly boxy or broad shoulder look, rather it's just kind of sharpening the width that is already there. Now in terms of the shape and silhouette of the coat overall, these coats are long and slim cut with a very slight taper throughout the waist and even the hem. Notice how the hem kind of tapers inward so that it's not flaring outward. This again helps to maintain a sense of proportion and accuracy and sleekness in a way that is still quite accommodating of the soft gamine's need for crisp curvature. So to clarify with the opposite, if we had just a very straight up and down rigid coat, that would be a bit harder for this body type to wear as they would be overwhelmed by too much yang. Now for the fabric choice, this coat works really well with a medium weight wool or a structured blend that keeps a very smooth and firm line. Avoiding stretch or very brushed textures is great because those can look a little bit blurry or diffuse, and this sleek and structured coat needs a good amount of clarity and definition. For our next coat, we have something a little bit more relaxed, this lighter long line coat. The collar and shoulders are still quite clean, but because the overall coat is a bit more relaxed and straight, we need a little bit more width at the shoulders to kind of balance that out. So slightly squared shoulder padding works really great here, and a collar that sits very close to the neck, or no lapels, no collar. That works really well because it emphasizes the shoulder shape without adding bulk, without adding anything distracting to cut that lovely clean line. Now for the coat shape, it is a rather straight cut and it follows the body lightly. It's not overly tight. The hem should fall cleanly without flaring too much outwards and obviously not tapering too much inwards. It's lean, but it's relaxed. And for this kind of coat, a lightweight wool or cotton blend with a nice crisp drape works well. The fabric should move easily, not very rigid, but it should still maintain or recover its shape, especially when worn unfastened. So this is not the coat that looks best if you wear it unfastened and it just kind of opens up to the side and doesn't maintain the area in front of the body. For something I believe is a little bit more soft gamine, I would say iconic, the kind of style that I think a lot of us think of when we think soft gamine animation, a more structured coat with more exaggerated waist emphasis. So for the collars, we can play around a bit more with an exaggerated collar, like something with contrast banding, a Peter Pan collar, something quite wide but still delicate and curved, or delicate and slightly angled, like this one here. The key component is maintaining proportion, and that is stabilized by these shoulders, which are crisp but not overly square, not overly angular. So this kind of contoured shoulder rather than a very angular one balances the collar. As for the shape of the coat, If it's shorter, you can get away with less waist definition because you have the tapering at the waist and the flaring out. But with a longer coat, you want a stronger waist definition and more flare at the bottom or a little wrap, something to create a sense of curvature. And for the fabric choice, as this is a more structured coat, a dense wool or twill that will hold structure and that can really support that necessary seaming throughout is perfect. For something a little bit more versatile, casual, easygoing, a long puffer coat. For the collar and shoulders, pay attention to the hood. The hood, especially when it creates this kind of almost collar-like effect by staying quite close to the neck and even providing some verticality, really helps define the upper body, and it helps create this upward like perkiness so that this otherwise long puffer coat isn't weighing down such a delicate and petite body type or silhouette. You can go for a longer coat as long as there is still some sense of shape. It's not overly wide and boxy, and what really helps create that is choosing sleeker panels, sleeker quilting, nothing overly puffy. And surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, avoiding glossy puffers really helps that. If you imagine these puffers in a very shiny finish, that can kind of widen the frame. So matte to semi-glossy I think is best. And finally, for some aspects to avoid, oversized and too much fabric here, that's something that will definitely drown the soft gamine, something that will overwhelm the soft gamine in an otherwise quite fitted coat. Too many angles, too much geometry, too much linear contrast. It just goes against their yin or romantic undercurrent, and anything boxy without tapering, without a more delicate sense of proportion, too thick, that will also obscure the soft gamine silhouette. So that was it for today's video. Next, I will cover the flamboyant gamines, and let me know if you have any questions. I look forward to speaking to you in the next video. Bye.